Welcome to In the Zone with Anthony Smith. Your favorite podcast, get all information as it happens. Could have easily did this early this morning, but when you work third shift, it's hard to think about doing anything but sleeping, and still couldn't quite get to sleep. But a lot has happened in the world of sports, and it's been a very busy week, especially if you're keeping up with what's going on in the coaching ranks. So first, who did we have? We had Pete Carroll. Then, not to be outdone, you had Nick Saban. All the while, what had been brewing underneath the surface was, what's going to happen with Bill Belichick? Well, first of all, what you need to know about Bill Belichick is he has 333 total wins, including 31 postseason head coaching victories. Bill Belichick's career coaching record is 302, 165, and 1. Now let's put this all together. And I'm going to get to the story at hand. Nick Saban, 297 wins, including 292 wins that take away 5 vacated wins. Saban's career record as a college head coach is 292, 71, and 1. Didn't know Nick Saban has some wins vacated. Then you look at Pete Carroll. Has 172 combined wins, regular and postseason. Carroll's overall head coaching record is 161, 112, and 1 in the regular season and 11-11 in the postseason. Carroll is the winningest head coach in Seahawks history with a 137, 86, 89, and 1 record. So, today marks the end of another era. But let me just give you this quick tidbit. I gave you those coaches' records. But as of January the 11th, 2024, Nick Saban, Bill Belichick, and Pete Carroll have won 912 games, 9 Super Bowls, and 9 national championships together. However, this number doesn't include the victories. Carroll was forced to vacate at USC after his players were found to have received improper gifts. And also, I'm pretty sure it doesn't include the 5 vacated wins during Saban's career either. But that's an astonishing feat right there amongst those 3 coaches with those combined wins. Which now takes me to the news at hand, because everybody's been waiting. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? It wasn't a matter of if, it was just a matter of when. And it just so happened it lined up with the other 2 big names. So now we have a transition of power inside the end of the Belichick era. It wasn't supposed to end like this. In a perfect world, it would have ended in January of 2025 or later. Ideally, when Bill Belichick decided to end it. The final scene should have featured Belichick being carried off the field, owning the record for career wins, not a dry eye in the house, including his. Instead, it ends with angst. The Patriots broken down on the side of the road, hood popped, steam pouring from the engine, and Belichick thumbing for a ride. You can't count on perfect, but nobody counted on this. Patriots plummeting to the NFL cellar. Their roster is in disrepair. Belichick out of answers and headed out of town. 3 years of saber rattling from owner Robert Kraft culminated in the team parting ways with Belichick on Thursday. Based on expectations publicly set by Kraft and his unmasked disappointment at the team's direction before this season, what option did he have? We always thought there was a hard floor for Belichick's Patriots. He set the bar so high, the Patriots' best was untouchable. Their average was elite, and their really bad, like 2022, was league average. They'd never been awful. Not on Bills' watch, but they were. First 10 games of 2023, a 2-8 start with blowout embarrassments against the Cowboys and Saints sealed Belichick's fate. After losing those two games by a combined 72-3, Belichick said the Patriots would start over. Then they lost to the Las Vegas Raiders 21-17. A dizzying 29-25 win over the Bills felt like a breath of fresh air for Belichick, Mac Jones, and the fans. It was a last gasp. The Bills' win was chased by the 6th loss in 7 meetings with Miami and a nut-crushing home loss to the Commanders. The capper was a humiliating 10-6 loss to the Colts in Germany. The image of owner Robert Kraft in a puffy black jacket hanging his head dejectedly as Jones was picked off near the end zone in the waning minutes said everything. Anyone but a legend would have been fired during the bye week. Belichick was not, but conversations with team sources after the Patriots returned from Europe made it clear a decision was made to part ways with Belichick at the end of the season. Coming off their bye, the Patriots lost to the lowly Giants, quarterbacked by rookie Tommy DeVito. Mac Jones, the 2021 runner-up for Offensive Rookie of the Year, was benched. Then they got shut out by the Chargers 6-0 to fall to 2-10. Over the last month, when the team pulled out primetime road wins over Denver and Pittsburgh, there was a notion Belichick might survive. But the decision was made weeks before, and a late season flurry of competence wasn't enough to change ownership's mind. With a top 5 pick, a boatload of cap space, and the second reboot since Tom Brady left in early 2020, this offseason will dictate how the rest of the decade goes. Keeping that in mind, ownership had to weigh the following. Belichick's draft record has been spotty since 2013. His return on a record-setting free agent splurge in 2021 was meager. Jones's decline from promising Brady replacement to literally unusable is, in the eyes of ownership, tied directly to Belichick's coaching staff decisions after Josh McDaniels left, and the inability to find, sign, and or develop offensive talent has made the offense unwatchable. Handing Belichick the keys to a rebuild would have been a dice roll, but stripping the legend of personnel duties and telling him to stay in his coaching lane was also a non-starter. Even if ownership changed course, the question would now be, to what end? Belichick would be a lame duck head coach with an expiring contract, diminished in power, and still more than a season away from setting the wins records. Ultimately, the Crafts did what Belichick never shied from. They did what they thought was best for the football team. They ripped the Band-Aid off, knowing how painful it would be, even if it's ahead of their timeline, even if there's real trepidation about post-Belichick life. It was time. A matter of trust. Debate over what to do about Bill has been vocal and passionate on both sides for the past month. Compared to siblings fighting over the family home when the old man's gone, one sibling can't bear the thought, even if it's busted and the renovation won't get it back where it was. It's familiar. It's comfortable. It was the envy of everyone. Best house ever, and nobody ever had one like it. Can't imagine quitting on it. Not with all it's meant to everyone. Selling, heartless, short-sighted, worst of all, disloyal. The other sibling appreciates the sentimentality, but is more practical. The last Reno didn't work. The one they're starting at is even more perilous and expensive and fraught. Nobody can take away the memories, and holy hell, if the old man was anything, it was practical and sensible. It won't be like it was ever again. Grow up. Nothing that's happened in the first weeks of January 24 diminishes what the Patriots accomplished from 2000 to 2018. 6 Lombardies, 9 Super Bowl appearances, 13 AFC Championship game appearances. Having it end like this fuels conversation about who gets what share of credit for the greatest 20-year run in the history of American professional sports. And that won't die. But the simple truth was that Robert Kraft begot Bill, Bill begot Tom Brady, and Tom Brady got the team to Olympus over and over again because the other two set him up to do so. The three of them were simpatico underdogs. Kraft's purchase of the franchise in 1993 was shrug-worthy at the time. His hiring of Bill Belichick in 2000 was panned as a misstep, and nobody envisioned Brady as a starting NFL quarterback, never mind the greatest to ever play the position. A bedrock principle in each man's success was willingness to be unconventional, to navigate paths that appeared impassable. Over a quarter century, Belichick made so many "he did what?" decisions so boldly and so unapologetically that "In Bill We Trust" was more than a 4-word catchphrase. It was an operating philosophy. Gutting the roster of deadwood veterans on arrival, picking Brady over the highest paid player in football, Drew Bledsoe, trading Bledsoe in the division, releasing lawyer Malloy, moving on from Adam Vinatieri, signing Corey Dillon and acquiring Randy Moss. All the trades of seemingly indispensable players like Richard Seymour, Logan Mankins, and Jamie Collins. Wide receivers playing corner, defensive ends catching touchdowns. There were so many instances of Belichick being proven right after hearing howls of derision that Robert and Jonathan Kraft couldn't do anything but let Bill cook. He earned ownership's trust so completely that privately and publicly both men have started Belichick earned the right to manage the team as he saw fit. Tell you what I'm going to do right here. I am going to take a break. And when I come back, I am going to finish this story on Bill Belichick, as we've found out today that Patriots and Bill Belichick have parted ways, and now the speculation is going to really be ratcheted up. Where does Bill go next? Is he going to chase the all-time wins record? Or with all the drama and suspense, will it actually wear on him mentally and he say, you know what, this is it. I've accomplished enough and there's nothing else left to prove. In the Bill Belichick voice. Anyway, you're locked in the zone with Anthony. Don't you go nowhere. I will be right back. Welcome back to In the Zone with Anthony, as we are looking at the Bill Belichick drama as the Patriots have decided to part ways with Bill Belichick. And what I want to do is I want to conclude this story about Bill Belichick. What to do with Bill. So as article goes on, says he earned ownership trust so completely that privately and publicly both men have stated Belichick earned the right to manage the team as he saw fit. In early 2022, when Josh McDaniels was heading to Las Vegas to interview for a Raiders job he would ultimately take, they didn't press Belichick for an end game to his coaching career, believing that when the time was looming, he'd let them know. They didn't fear Belichick's flight as they did that of Bill Parcells. Belichick would have a plan. The The team wouldn't bottom out. In Bill we trust, extended all the way up. Belichick managed the Patriots to an unprecedented, unthinkable level of success and was the best football investment Robert Kraft ever made. Even if he looked like an unmade bed, even if at the podium he was alternately dismissive, charismatic, condescending, funny, and brilliant. Belichick gave 0 F's about so many things society at large cared deeply about that his iconoclastic nature led to him becoming more than a football coach. He became a culture icon. In a way, he became too big to fail. Who are we talking about? Bill Belichick. What else was he? A transcendent dude. In 2011, after the Patriots beat the Denver Broncos in the playoff game, the gifted writer Charlie Pierce wrote a column titled Learning to Love the Antichrist. In it, Pierce described Belichick as the last real Antichrist in the NFL. This has been the great conundrum of New England Patriots under Bill Belichick, a kind of blessedly refreshing football anarchy explained by its practitioners in stale terms that run the gamut from prosaic to sullen and back again. Pierce wrote, "To concentrate on the latter is to miss the sheer artistry of the former. Bill Belichick, the last NFL Antichrist, the Lord of Misrule. Mind you, that was 2011. The Patriots would play in 5 more Super Bowls, winning 3 after Pierce wrote that, defining Belichick, appreciating him as a totem who transcended football and was relevant as a role model beyond locker rooms and in boardrooms, and philosophically spawned books and appreciations. There is a litany of examples from the past quarter century demonstrating Belichick's charisma and communication skills that could have shattered the myth of him being a grunting, shrugging misanthrope. A few: his 2002 New York Times op, his appearance on ABC before the Super Bowl, his long and eloquent press conference after the painful arrest of Aaron Hernandez, the Mona Lisa veto press conference, in-depth occasions with NFL films for A Football Life and the NFL's Top 100 Countdown, for which Belichick won an Emmy, right up through his appearance on ESPN's College Game Day in December before the Army-Navy game at Gillette. But Belichick himself embraced his brand as gruff and monosyllabic, deploying withering stares and sarcastic answers freely over the past 6 seasons. The "I don't have to answer to you" subtext was apparent and celebrated too. Belichick's success and his way of doing business inspired such loyalty that even as the Patriots spiraled, a huge swath of fans cries out whenever he's grilled and criticized. Long after Belichick stops coaching, his brand will live on in memes, on memes, on memes. Is he the most famous coach in pro sports history? Is he the most decorated? Is he both? You can easily make that argument. Belichick himself won't. But he's shown in the past few years he's very, very aware of what he's given his bosses and his fan base. Belichick is big on loyalty. You do him a solid, he'll do you a solid. Cross him, and you may be out for good, which makes one wonder how he truly feels about an ignominious end in Foxborough. Does he get it, or is it a betrayal? So what I'm going to do right there, I'm going to take a break. In case you haven't figured out, we're talking about Bill Belichick and his partner ways. And I guess in some ways this is somewhat like almost a podcast tribute to the Bill Belichick legacy. When we come back, I'm going to talk about on loyalty and legacy. You're locked in the zone with Anthony. A lot has happened in the last 72 hours. And it's centered around three men: Pete, Nick, and Bill. Be right back. Welcome back to In the Zone with Anthony Smith. And yes, today, I know I'm kind of heavy on Bill Belichick. Am I a New England Patriots fan? No, I'm not a New England Patriots fan. However, I was a Drew Bledsoe fan back in the day when he came in the league. It didn't make me a Patriots fan. I was just a fan of the quarterback. But today's Bill Belichick parting ways with the Patriots Day. So I'm probably giving you a little bit more of what the mainstream national media is giving. And of course, I'm pretty sure there are some who have their sentiment of how they're handling everything as far as talking about Bill Belichick. I don't have all the details and the ramifications of what, but I'm pretty sure with everything that I'm talking about in this, I'm pretty sure you'll be able to pick out the ramifications and what led to the demise of one Bill Belichick, who we've seen over the past, Lord knows how many years, how he's been linked with Tom Brady, or how Tom Brady's been linked with him. Even some will go as far as to say, well, the Spygate, the cheating scandal. At some point, you'll have to look back over this and say, you know what? At the end of the day, you can steal signs, you can cheat, you can Spygate, but at the end of the day, it does you no good if you don't get out and play the game physically. That's all I'm saying. So, am I defending them? No, I'm not. If they were guilty of it, shame on them. But at the end of the day, you can come up with all kinds of devices, but if you don't have the dogs to run out the game plan, you can do all the cheating you want and it still won't help you. That's all I'm saying. Bottom line. Anyway, still talking about Bill Belichick, about his loyalty and legacy. On the eve of 2016 presidential election, Donald Trump read from Belichick at a rally in Manchester, New Hampshire. Congratulations on a tremendous campaign. You have dealt with an unbelievable slanted and negative media and have come out beautifully. You proved to be the ultimate competitor and fighter. Your leadership is amazing. I've always had tremendous respect for you, but the toughness and perseverance you have displayed over the past year is remarkable. Hopefully tomorrow's election results will give you the opportunity to make America great again. Best wishes for great results tomorrow, Bill. Trump later said that when he asked Belichick if he could read it publicly, Belichick actually rewrote the letter to make it more enthusiastic. Asked why he sent the letter, Belichick explained that he and Trump have a friendship that goes back many years. Belichick added that he's not a political person. The letter rankled some of Belichick's players, not because he was friends with Trump, but because he asked players to refrain from political comments. But for Belichick, the idea of loyalty and support trumped the possibility of backlash, which brings us back to Belichick, football, and whether he feels somewhat betrayed by ownership, by fans, by the media, by anyone who questions him. When the Patriots' 2019 season ended with a playoff loss to the Titans, Belichick was asked after the game if he had a message to fans who stuck with the team through thick and thin. I wouldn't say it's been all that thin around here, personally. Maybe you feel differently. I haven't heard a lot of fans say that was part of his answers. Fair, quite fair, but it was an indication that Belichick was, girding for the ebbs and flows of life in the NFL, and that after 2 decades of flow, an ebb might come. About 10 months later, Belichick talked about the 2020 season as a reset and said the team sold out to win Super Bowls in Brady's final years. Again, fair, but the subtext was, you people have a short memory. This is going to take time. When I asked Belichick in November 2020 about the team's shabby draft record in previous seasons, Belichick answered, yeah, well, Tom, I would say the most important thing to me is winning games. And I'm not going to apologize for our record over the last 20 years. I mean, I've seen a lot worse. That was the first instance in which Belichick said basically, check the scoreboard. That it was in response to a question about poor drafting indicated, to me at least, that the years of success should somehow mitigate current poor performance. But the most obvious example of where Belichick's head was at in terms of past results being a promise of future success was in an answer to ESPN's Mike Reese at the 2023 owners meeting. As for Patriots fans should be optimistic, Belichick answered, the last 25 years. It was an eye-opening response that Belichick later walked back a bit. We're not resting on our past laurels. That's not the message to the team or the fans, Belichick said to Jim McBride of the Boston Globe. We have never operated that way and aren't now. Coincidentally, at the same meetings, Robert Kraft resisted saying that Belichick could coach in New England long enough to break Don Shula's win record. Look, I'd like him to break Don Shula's record, but I'm not looking for any of our players to get great stats, Kraft said. We're about winning and doing whatever we can to win. And that's what our focus is now. And it's very important to me that we make the playoffs. And that's what I hope happens next year. Suffice to say that has not happened. And it's happened mainly because of the roster and coaching decisions Belichick made going back to 2019. Actually, the foundation was laid before that. Like the Colorado River creating the Grand Canyon, the Patriots' plummet started with a trickle back when they won the Super Bowl in 2016. So what I'm going to do, because there is so much more to this, and I don't want to be on overkill with Bill Belichick, but in case you don't know, Bill Belichick and the Patriots parted ways. And instead of talking about whatever the mainstream media may be talking about, I want to give you stories and history and timelines. And like I said, there's a whole lot more, but I'm not going to inundate you with so much Bill Belichick talk and the history and how things came undone. That in itself is a segment by itself. And it's dealing with the 2017 season when things turned after dramatically beating the Falcons in the Super Bowl and routing from a 28-3 deficit. Tom Brady entered rare air. I mean, we can go on and on. So I just want to thank you for these first few segments for your undivided attention and your listening ear. This is what happens when someone has the day off to themselves. And right now, today is about Bill Belichick and the Patriots and everybody moving forward. So you know the hotbed topic is going to be, where does he go next? Is he going anywhere next? Will his loyalty that he's had to the Patriots allow him to go any place else next, should teams come calling for him? Will his age be a factor? Which now, when I say that, when you stop and think about Pete Carroll is 72, and I know Bill Belichick is up there in the 70s market, maybe a little bit 3 years older. If Bill Belichick gets another gig elsewhere with his age, why would 72 be too old for Pete Carroll if someone came calling for him? Because I've heard some people put it out saying Pete Carroll's age, 72, he's too old. But if Bill Belichick gets a job at one of these other openings, how is he not too old? And Pete Carroll is too old. Something just isn't adding up. I tell you what, though, is adding up. Me taking a break. Because there's so much more to go. So stay locked in the zone. This is yours truly, Anthony Smith. I'll be back on the other side of this break. Stay locked in. Welcome back to In the Zone with Anthony. And I know I gave you a hot plate smorgasbord full of Bill Belichick. Of course, you know, the other two coaches that parted ways or retired, they had to share their day. But Bill Belichick's day is all of his own. So that's why we've gone in deep on Bill Belichick. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at what happens next. And when I say what happens next, who is the next in line to coach this team? Because the speculation ratcheted up after Monday when Mike Vrabel was fired from the Tennessee Titans, and social media lost his mind and went ballistic, saying it's time for Vrabel to come home because he played there for X amount of years, won 3 Super Bowl rings, has experienced a level of success as a coach with the Tennessee Titans, barring his last 2 years. So people have automatically penciled him in. But the vibe and the headlines that's actually really going around right about now is that Jarod Mayo is the favorite to succeed Belichick as Patriots head coach. Now keep in mind, they still have to go through the process. They have to interview other candidates outside. But this would be precedent in New England if they retain Mayo and make him the coach as scheduled, because of this fact right here. A lot has been said about that Boston area, the Massachusetts area, especially in the lines of racial tension and the fact that Jarod Mayo is a person of color and he's already been tabbed as the heir apparent to succeed Bill Belichick speaks volumes, especially for the New England Patriots. In essence, this would pretty much go against the grain, but I know that he would be under an intense microscope as soon as he experienced failures. His margin for error, I believe, whatever his margin for error is, that is to be expected. That's all I can say. And I know that it may even come across as controversial, but kudos to the Kraft family for making this move. So right now, the successor looks to be Jarod Mayo, the odds-on favorite. So the wheels of the Bill Belichick succession plan are being put into motion. The New England Patriots have parted ways with Belichick as their head coach. Team owner Robert Kraft and Belichick confirmed while addressing the legendary coach's departure Thursday from Gillette Stadium. As for what comes next in New England, NBC Sports Boston's Phil Perry reports that linebackers coach Jarod Mayo remains the favorite to be the Patriots' next head coach. NBC Sports Boston's Tom E. Curran also reported Thursday he expects Mayo succeed Belichick in New England. The indication I've gotten are that Jarod Mayo will be the successor to Bill Belichick, Curran said on NBC Sports Boston. New England's first round pick in the 2008 NFL Draft, number 10 overall, Mayo spent his entire 8-year playing career with the Patriots, winning a Super Bowl and earning 2 Pro Bowl nods as a defensive leader at linebacker. Mayo joined New England's coaching staff in 2019 as an inside linebackers coach and evolved into a leader on the defensive coaching staff, sharing defensive play calling duties with assistant Steve Belichick. That being said, you wonder if Steve is going to stay around and take on the role of defensive coordinator, or maybe even coach if they bring someone else in, if they elevate Jarod Mayo. So see, there's still some parts around that has Belichick still written on it, unless Bill goes somewhere and takes Steve with him. The Patriots announced plans to extend Mayo's contract in January 2023, keeping him in Foxborough despite other teams being interested in him as a head coach. In March 2023, Kraft dubbed Mayo the heir apparent to Belichick. The Patriots will undergo a formal search for their next head coach, and recently fired Tennessee Titans head coach Mike Vrabel certainly is an intriguing candidate. But at this point, it sounds like Mayo is the leader in the clubhouse to fill the shoes of a coaching legend. So there you have the inside take on who could possibly be the next coach. And I wouldn't be surprised if in the next couple of weeks they have a little search committee, have about 2 or 3 interviews, only to come out and say New England is announcing that Jarod Mayo is the new head coach of the New England Patriots. So I want to know what your vibe is and what do you think about this as well too. Well, there is some more sports news to get to, lots more. The question is, who wants to be the number 1 college team in basketball? Who wants to be number 2? Who wants to be number 3? Because 1, 2, and 3 both went down, with the latest victim being KU, Kansas University, falling at the hands of UCF, University of Central Florida. They would have been most likely next in line to have the number 1 ranking. However, by them losing, I guess they'll be next team up under. Who's the 4th ranked team? Well, I'm pretty sure they don't want that. But yeah, I find it interesting because number 1 in college basketball has shifted around so many times. It makes you wonder if these rankings really amount to anything this early in the season. I know some teams are 10, 11, 12 games in, but does it really matter this time of the year? I mean, maybe they should take a page out of college football like they do with the college football playoff rankings. They don't start doing that till like mid-season, and then that's when games really start to count more. Did they really count this much during this part of the season? I think the rankings really shouldn't mean much until about February, getting ready to go into March, because now you're looking at March Madness. Now you can start jockeying for projections, bracketology. Now is when your rankings will really mean something around this time. I say right after January, 1st of February is when they should come out with bracketology rankings. And that's when you take into consideration quad 1, quad 2, quad 3, quad 4 wins. That's when you take stuff like that into consideration. This time of year is too early. This is just now January. We haven't even gotten to Martin Luther King Day, which is Monday, January 15th. Happy Martin Luther King Day coming up in advance. Get out and celebrate. But that being said, though, the rankings really don't have no bearing right now. Of course, I know some statisticians are looking at, okay, well, KU lost to UCF and they're just newly in the Big 12. At best, they're still probably a Power 5 status, you know. Now, Houston, on the other hand, that's a different beast. They've pretty much proven their worth over the last couple of years. They looked like they belong in the Big 12 until they went to Hilton Coliseum. But can I share something with you? A lot of teams go to Hilton Coliseum, that's in Ames, Iowa, home of the Iowa State Cyclones. And I can tell you that over the years, even some of their not so good teams give teams a run for their money. It's something about that Hilton Coliseum magic that good teams just don't fare well, or they come out knowing they were in the dogfight. So yes, to me though, as far as ranking teams this early in the season, it shouldn't really matter till it gets around end of January, definitely first part of February, because now you're starting to look at March Madness. Now you're starting to look at where you're in your conference. I mean, someone will say, I disagree with you, and you can disagree with me. I have no problems with you disagreeing with me. Someone will say the real season doesn't start until you get into conference play. That also makes sense. But if you're not one of those power conferences that's steadily getting 5 and 6 teams in, what difference does that make too? Of course, for those mid-major schools, playing a team like, say, a Kansas, a Duke, now that might do something for you in the early part of the season. But if you don't pan out in your conference, then those games really don't mean nothing. So there's a lot of ifs, ands, and buts about it. Everybody's going to have their take on it, and that's my take on it. Now, if you're a mid-major team, you got Kansas on your schedule, you got Duke on your schedule, you got North Carolina, you have any team from the previous NCAA tournament, then, yeah, okay, I can understand it may make a difference for you. But how many pay games do you have to take? Hey, that's just my opinion. Anyway, tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a break, because I've been rambling on and rambling, and I need to take a break. Hope you are enjoying being in the zone with Anthony as much as I'm enjoying sitting up here talking to each and every one of you who are listening to this podcast. Stay tuned. I'll be right back to wrap things up. Don't you go nowhere. You're in the zone with Anthony Smith. Welcome back to In the Zone with Anthony, as we are now going to go a totally different direction. Seems like we're still dealing with Boston, but that being said, we are going to take a look at the association known as the NBA, as tonight is number 1 versus number 2, as the red hot Celtics take on the Milwaukee Bucks. Number 1 seed in the East, Boston, 28-8, is coming off of a gritty win last night against the number seed in the West, Minnesota. Jason Tatum scored 45 points as Boston moved to 18-0 at home. Can they get it done on the road? The Bucks hope to halt a 2-game losing streak, despite impressive numbers from Giannis, the number 2 seed Bucks. The number 2 seed Bucks, 25-12, have lost 2 in a row and are 5-5 over their last 10. Can they avoid a third straight loss tonight is the question. Holiday is set to return to a Pfizer form after being dealt in the offseason. Jrue Holiday will play in Milwaukee for the first time. Well, that remains to be seen. I know it's not his first time. So that's a marquee matchup for tonight. Another game of interest, Cleveland Cavaliers will be taking on the Brooklyn Nets. And I believe that game is actually going to be played in Paris. So it looks like the NBA is doing exactly what the NFL is doing and playing some games overseas, expanding their brand. Of course, the NBA is global. It doesn't get no more global than that, than the NBA. So maybe I should reverse that statement and say maybe the NFL is patterning after the NBA. Because the NBA, in my viewpoint, has been more global than the NFL. So, I've enjoyed being in the zone. Hope you have enjoyed me taking you deep in the zone. As a lot was centered around Bill Belichick, his, I don't know if you say untimely partner of the ways. And let's just call it what it is. When they say agreed to part ways, there was really no agreement to part ways. A mindset was already made that this is what's going to happen. This goes back to the game in Germany when they lost that game and the way they lost it. Such a lackluster, no life in the building, like a 10-6 game. Who goes to Germany you could go to a high school stadium and play a 10-6 game. It just wasn't no life. It was listless. And it was said then that the decision was pretty much made right then and there at that point in time. It was just a matter of when at the beginning of the season would it be. Just had no idea that it would line up with that of Pete Carroll and Nick Saban. But all good things must come to an end. Good coaching tenures must come to an end, just like In the Zone has to come to an end. Hope you have enjoyed it. I know the last few minutes I just went here, went there, just running my mouth, talking about a whole lot of nothing. But I hope once again that you have enjoyed being in the zone as much as I enjoy you being in the zone. Until the next time, take care of yourself and each other. I look forward to the next time. Peace. I'm out.